Howdy, welcome to Club Fantasci. My name is David Lowry. I'm your host, and today we are talking with Randy Hoyt of Foxtrot Games about Lanterns, the Harvest Festival. It's a new game on Kickstarter. It's got a little bit of time left, about a week, so we want to drill into that and get all of you that are still on the fence or haven't heard about it yet to take a look at it. Randy, welcome to the show. Thank you for being a part.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the game real quick. Give me a 2-minute synopsis of what Lanterns is all about.
All right. In Lanterns, players act as artisans in Imperial China, decorating the palace lake with floating lanterns, getting ready for the upcoming Harvest Festival. You've got a hand of tiles. Each tile has 4 sides with different colors on it, different colors of lanterns. And when you place the tile down on the board, you get a card corresponding to the color on the tile that's facing you, whichever the 4 sides you face towards you. But then so do all of your opponents. They get a card corresponding to the color facing them. So every turn, people are playing these tiles, everybody's getting cards, and most of the cards you're getting are sort of determined by your opponents. As you get these cards, you're trying to combine them into sets, various kinds of sets, either 4 of a kind, so a 3 pair, or 7 uniques, and then turning those in, making a dedication with those in exchange for honor. And the player with the most honor at the end of the game wins. And like I said, there's this careful balance between trying to get the card that you need without giving your opponents the cards that they need.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm trying to show the cards a little bit here while you're talking so people get an idea. Now, there's been a lot of buzz about this game. A lot of people talking about it, and people would think for such a simple-looking game. How did you guys come up with that feature, that design?
So I'm the publisher on this game and the game developer and producer. The designer is named Christopher Chung. He's a designer in Canada. He's American Citizens of Canada. And the idea started at a game jam. He was at a game jam at one of his local, I think, coffee shops. Mostly video game designers, but they were given a handful of prompts to choose from, and the one that he decided to run with for this game jam was perspective. Now, a lot of the video gamers who were doing this game jam looked at perspective as like a setting or a theme, but he decided to use it as the mechanics. So he thought about when you place the tile, it's you get the card that's based on how you see the board, so what your perspective is on. That is the mechanic that just came to him. Around that, and so we thought, well, if everybody gets a tile or a card based on their perspective, then what can they do with those cards? And then the set collection evolved. So the very beginning, that kind of core mechanic, place a tile, get cards based on your perspective, and turn in cards for sets, was just there out of a game jam, made up of mostly video game designers.
Awesome. Now, there's 6 days left on this campaign. So for people looking, you can just go to Kickstarter.com and type in Lanterns and search it and pull it right up. You're funded at double what you're asking. But obviously, the more people fund it, there's levels to reach and all those kinds of things. How surprised were you at the response?
You'd never know how people are going to respond. So whenever you put something up on Kickstarter, you're hoping for a response like this. With our first campaign, this is our second campaign now. The first one, we really had no idea what to expect. With this one, we had a little bit more of an idea of kind of the range of possibilities, and we did a lot to get the word out beforehand. Playing the game at Gen Con with people, tweeting about it, posting a print and play. Backers from our first campaign who signed up for our newsletter, we let them know a few months ago that the game was going to be on Kickstarter. We had probably a dozen of them print and play it, give us feedback. So we did what we thought we needed to do to have a response like this. We got the game to over a dozen reviewers to play before the campaign launched, over a month in advance. And so we just crossed our fingers and hoped that it would happen. Still, though, I'm just really surprised and delighted at how well it went. You do all the right preparation and you just hope. So yeah, very, very pleased with the response, very happy. And that week before, I was just kind of a nervous wreck of, is this going to work? Did we do what we needed to do? Could we have done more? What should we have done differently? All that. Right. Kind of hesitating, but yeah. I mean, I'm surprised and I'm not surprised. This is what I wanted it to do, and I'm really pleased that it has done so well.
Well, I can tell you, I took the art, the pagoda in the water, and it's actually my screen or my screen on my computer. So
Nice.
that
Me
was
too, actually. Me too.
very beautiful. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Thank you.
And I just noticed that you're from Dallas. I was in Dallas just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, you were, huh? Yes, yeah. That's where I'm calling in from right now, Dallas, Texas, my home. Yeah.
How's the Ebola scare going down there?
It's not too bad. People are all just sitting around waiting and hoping that everything is fine. There's not too much to be scared about yet. I don't think it's not gotten to the level. I mean, people talked about it mostly casually around town. It's not gotten to a hysteria level yet. You know, we get a flyer sent home from school about washing your hands and with the kids and that kind of stuff, but just precautionary stuff right now.
All right, so you guys are at a level where the next level on your thing is $25,000. So explain to the people watching what these next levels will unlock for them.
Okay, so the next level, the $25,000 stretch goal, is for wooden favor tokens. So in the game, there's a number of tokens that you can earn that give you the favor of the Emperor, which will let you trade out cards. You can spend 2 of those and trade one of your cards in for a different one that you need. Is how they work mechanically. What you were holding up there is a prototype version, like a bingo disc. Right now in the game, there'll be cardboard punch-outs, circles. But if we do hit the $25,000 stretch goal, we'll upgrade those to wooden discs that have the same Imperial seal screen printed on them. I'm really excited about that one. It seems like we're on pace to hit it. I hope we do. We've been playing the game recently with some samples we got. They're not printed yet. They're just plain wood tokens, but I really like the feel of wooden components. So hopefully we can unlock that one. Oh, and then after that, there's one more for a custom boat token. So, like I said, you're placing floating lanterns in the water. So we've got a starting player token that's a custom boat meeple that you just had to mark the starting player, screen printed as well with some detail. There's a picture of that, a mock design, up on the campaign page as well.
All right, so now everybody needs to remember this is 6 days left to go, right? It's not a lot of time, so go ahead and get out there and back it. It's foxtrotgames.com if you can't remember anything else. I'm pretty sure it was a Facebook page. I forgot to check just what I got online, and there's definitely a Twitter.
Yeah, so, and you can just go to lanternsgame.com. That's the URL that'll redirect to the campaign page if you just want to jump right into there.
Okay.
Or yeah, you can follow us, Foxtrot Games on Twitter or Foxtrot Games on Facebook as well.
I just want to get this photo in there for the people who haven't seen this yet.
Yeah.
Some of the way that the other tiles, these are the ones that you actually place down.
Yeah, and as you can see, there's each side has a different color. There's 7 different colors in the game, and when you place them down, then that determines whichever color is facing you is the card that you get. Yeah, we're just so pleased with the art. We're working with Beth Sobel. She's an illustrator from Washington State. She's done some other games. She did Viticulture from Stonemaier Games. That's probably the one most people watching this will recognize. She's done some other work for AEG and some other companies. She's just a great artist, and she really helped guide the direction of the art more than just, hey, just draw this, and she drew it. Like, she really helped. She's a gamer herself. She loves tile laying games. She had said, actually, before I got in touch with her, just like a week or 2 before, that she had wanted to do the art for a tile laying game. So that worked out really well. And yeah, being a gamer herself really helped.
That really helps, absolutely. Well, the artwork is fabulous. Even this prototype version is good enough quality to not have to need anything else. So yeah, it's fabulous. This is so much better than a lot of the stuff that gets sent. So, so now let's talk a little bit about what is the outline goal. Once this thing funds and the 6 days is over, when do you plan to have it in people's hands?
One of the things that's really tricky with board game publishing is the Chinese holiday schedule for the manufacturing. So what I'd love to have happen is that we get the games manufactured and on a boat before Chinese New Year. which is in February. And if we can make that, then we're talking like March or April in the games to backers. Any kind of delay, though, is going to be looking more like May or June. So we've got June as the expected delivery date. We'll do whatever we can, of course, to get it as soon as possible. But we want to get it late spring, early summer, and then hopefully have a retail release in time for Gen Con is the plan for that.
All right. So now, is there any follow-up to this? Is there going to be an expansion for this in the works or anything like that you guys know about?
Not that we know about right now. I mean, a lot of it, when you start designing games, you want to just design expansions and expansions and expansions. But from a market standpoint, it's hard enough to get enough copies of the base game sold. And what I've been seeing a lot of other Kickstarter campaigns do after the fact is if they sell out of that first printing, then they'll reprint the game and print an expansion at the same time. I know Dice Hate New Games has had some luck with that. Just recently with their compounded game, they have the the Geiger expansion for that. And so that's the kind of thing that we would do. We have plenty of ideas for expansions for this, just some of the ways like having tiles that don't have lanterns on one side, tiles that have extra bonuses. So there are some platforms right now in the middle of a few of the tiles that give you those favor tokens. There's plenty of other kind of actions that could be taken with those. So that we have ideas, but we'll try not to count our chickens before they hatch. We'll see how well the retail release is received. It's just a fact of the industry that most games don't sell out of their first printing. So we'll see how that all goes. We're very hopeful, and clearly we signed this game and wanted to bring it to market because we thought it would do really well in the market. So that's our hope.
So for those of you watching, again, you've only got a few days, but you can print and play it from the Kickstarter page. And you can download the rulebook as well so that you can get an idea real quick before you make any decisions. And obviously there's a ton of quotes and there's some reviews up there from people that you probably are all really familiar with to give you a good sense of whether or not this is up your alley. I think it looks fabulous, personally. So I'm recommending that you get it. And we'll just, let you look at the rest of those quotes and go from there. So now,
yeah, and just let me say too. I mean, it's a simple game, but if you read the quotes, you'll see there's quite a bit of depth in it. A lot of people are surprised at how much strategy or depth there is in this simple game. It plays in about 20 to 30 minutes with 2 to 4 players. Yeah, you can, like you said, you can check out the print and play and the reviews. There's some previews of people too showing how it plays. So. We have a gameplay video too that walks through how to play and some terms. So
yeah,
take a look.
This is a game that you can get and within 5 or 10 minutes pretty much have it on the table playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's simple enough that you're going to get that and then you're going to sit there and go, oh my God, I can't believe how deep this is. So most definitely. All right, so this isn't your first game though. Sure. Now you published another game called Relic Expedition. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, Relic Expedition is a jungle adventure game. You're playing an Indiana Jones-like explorer running through the jungle, trying to find treasure in the jungle and trying not to find dangerous wild animals like snakes and monkeys, panthers, and boars. The main mechanics there are a very, very expanding modular board. So it starts off really small next to your explorer. And when you move to the edge of the known world, you'll reveal new tiles. So there's a stack of 100 tiles, hexagons, that as you move to the edge of the board, these new tiles get revealed. So you're exploring the jungle. The way you win is you get 4 treasures that match. Either they all have the same color or they all have the same symbol. So every treasure has a color and a symbol, like the red sun or the white moon. And there's 6 colors and 6 symbols, and you're trying to get 4 that match. You put the treasures that you get in your backpack. It's a little Scrabble-like tray that holds 8 items, and that's all the items that you can carry. So there's another kind of thing you'll carry, supplies. Like a raft to go in the river or a cave, a headlamp to go in the cave, bananas to deal with monkeys, first aid kits, all these things. So you're juggling having the supplies you need to get around the jungle and be safe from animals versus the treasures that you need that you have to hold in your backpack to win the game.
Where can people find a copy of this? Is it in retail stores or just on the website? Where?
Yeah, it's in. We have some retail distribution right now. We're gonna actually have more of that once Lanterns is out. So we're looking for a wider retail release early next year. But right now, yeah, you can go to relicexpedition.com. That'll redirect to our Foxtrot Games page, and you can pick it up there. It's on sale right now, 20% off during the Lanterns campaign. So
our favorite words, on sale.
Yeah. So if you want to check that out, I suggest you do. We have a full Watch It Played episode. So Rodney Smith with Watch It Played did a tutorial how to play it and a full playthrough with his son. So if you want to see if it's the kind of game for you, you can check that out.
Awesome. All right, so we got Lanterns of Harvest Festival done in 6 days on Kickstarter. So make sure you guys check that out. Mm-hmm. Got expeditions that they can find on your website. Mm-hmm. So there's no other games at this point?
Not yet. So we have a couple other projects that we're working on. Nothing's ready to announce yet. If you are a designer looking for a cool, tiny indie publisher to publish your games, be sure to get in touch. FoxtrotGames.com has a contact information there. I'll be at Board Game Geek Con also in the next few weeks here in Dallas. So I'll be looking at some games there to publish. I'm not looking to be a huge publisher with 50 games out each year or anything like that. I'm just trying to take it slow. I learned a lot about publishing with Relic Expedition. And that was I guess that was a year and a half ago that we put that on Kickstarter and released it to retail about 9 months ago. I think, yeah, 9 or 10 months ago. So we're going to be picking up a little more steam, a little more speed, hopefully. Like I said, we've got a few projects that we'll be looking at and evaluating, developing, and trying to figure out which one's going to be next. So.
Now, just recently, I heard that while everybody was out at Essen and whatever, that there were 7,000 games that came out this year. Mm-hmm. And, reading all the posts, and I've been blogging about this for a while, about how at the rate that this is going, board gaming is going to catch up to regular entertainment and how they have to market themselves. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to get everything done just to have a bunch of people chomping at the bit to get your game, because now there are so many games and so many people looking to get reviews and so many people to do all that. How do you see this affecting somebody like you that's a smaller publisher versus somebody who's got all the clout in the world like an FFG or something?
Yeah, I mean, what's really neat about board game publishing right now is that with Kickstarter, there's a lot of tools available to us. There's a lot of shared knowledge through Facebook groups or blogs from other successful publishers. And so we're all sort of figuring out how to work, not together, I guess, but to share knowledge. And so we can figure out solutions for distribution, for fulfillment, a lot of those kinds of things that would be too much for people starting out to try to tackle all of that, but they're sort of known solutions. I think in one way that's been good for us. On the Kickstarter platform, people coming in, and it's continuing to grow. There are a lot of games on Kickstarter, but there's also a lot of game backers who come. We've had the privilege with Relic Expedition to be a handful of people's first game that they backed on Kickstarter. And now you go look at their profiles, and they've backed 10 more games. So it's Relic Expedition first, and then a bunch of games, and then Lanterns is their most recent one. And so these are people that, in the last year and a half, sort of discovered Kickstarter. So I think the market is growing, and when the market is growing and the manufacturing solutions are also coming down, everybody wants to be that person that every Kickstarter company calls. So they're working hard to get their minimum order quantities down to 1,500 or even 1,000 for some. And if they can figure out, if the manufacturers can figure out how to manufacture games efficiently and cheaply, and we've got that as a resource, then, and the market is growing with Kickstarter, then there really is just going to be a much larger demand for games. And I don't need to print 50,000 games to be successful. Right. I can print 2,500 games, and if there's a bunch of, I think it can keep fueling this ecosystem. Now, how do I sell 3 million copies of a game, like Ticket to Ride? I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet. But I mean, a lot of this kind of publishing stuff, you're trying to make game after game after game, make a little bit of profit, make enough money to put some away, to invest some in the next game, until you find that one game that's a big hit. And that's the model, and that's what we're doing. If I just keep making small run games, like, I'm okay with that for now. It's really fun. I mean, making games it's a really fun side job to have, and so I like it, and our backers like it, and if we keep growing kind of organically. I've just seen what happens with, there are plenty of small Kickstarter publishers who've grown a pretty big following. We may be reaching the point with Kickstarter where it's going to be really just too hard for first-time publishers to get in, and I worry that that's the case. It's going to be really hard to stand out as a first-time publisher, just as there get to be more and more of them. I'm hoping that Foxtrot Games has made it onto the other side of that line, so that we can keep, we have the trusted brand, and we can keep building our following. Very interesting to watch and be a part of it.
You brought up an interesting point, and something I was about to blog on with the Kickstarter and first-time publishers. And the other phenomenon I've kind of seen lately is a lot of people won't back your project if you haven't backed a bunch of others.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came over from doing music and just looking at all this board game stuff, we don't suffer from that in music. We don't. Mm-hmm. Musicians don't have to worry about whether or not they've backed other people's projects. Mm-hmm. They're their own business. A lot of them. Most people know that musicians are starving musicians and they're trying to make it or whatever. So people back them if they like them or whatever. But now here with the board game industry, it's kind of like assumed that if you're not giving back via Kickstarter, a lot of people aren't going to back you about that. But then that precludes somebody who has a dream and may not have the capital necessarily to back a bunch of people to use Kickstarter for its goal, which was to fund your dreams. Mm-hmm. How do you see that playing out, and how does that make you feel?
I really don't know how big of a deal that really is. People often talk about it, and they'll even try to come up with a metric for like how many games should you back as a publisher. I think what's important to me about a publisher or a Kickstarter creator backing other creators is that they understand how the market mechanics work. They understand what backers are looking for. They understand like how often to send out updates. Earlier this year, I backed a project. It's the first time where I ever unbacked because I was getting too many updates. Just to experience that as a backer, it's really helpful when you go to run your own project. That you know what things like stretch goals are. You know how often you should be sending out updates. What kinds of things you should be saying in your updates. Should you be asking people to go help you promote the game? Should you not? Where all that fits. And you really need to have some experience as a backer to get that. I think if everything else on your campaign page looks great, you've delivered some projects before, you have a great video, the gameplay looks good, you have reviews, you know what you're doing, there aren't a lot of people, I don't think, that will not back your project because you have zero back. You see it all the time. Guys Hate Me, they've run a number of very successful campaigns, and they have not. Chris has not backed any from his Dice Hate Me games account. I have a personal Kickstarter account, and I back all my projects almost from there. And then we have a business Kickstarter account, Foxtrot Games. We have backed a few games, a few projects with that, but I usually back them from my personal account. I forget the number. I think I have like 6 or 7 that I've backed, but I've backed a lot more from my personal account. Right. And I don't really know how much that really matters to people. If everything else looks fine, if your game has no gameplay video, no reviews, and you haven't backed anything, I think all of it sort of looks suspicious. But if everything else is in order and you've backed no projects, I don't think that's a big deal. It's not so much that you're. I'm asking people to give me money. If I've got plenty of money to back their projects, then that always seems strange to me why people would care or be concerned. But I think it is more. It's like the canary in the coal mine. If you don't know what Kickstarter's about because you've not backed any projects, then maybe that's a good signal that you don't really know what you're doing. I think that's sort of a related, but not necessarily causally related.
Now, what about the Kickstarter phenomenon? And I talk with publishers about this all the time because they'll email me and asking me. And it seems like these days everybody's a Kickstarter expert, even those that have never actually run one. They've got all this advice, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. Do you suffer from that at all? Do you get a bunch of that? And people like that that seem to think that they understand how to market something when they've never actually done it themselves.
Um, it's a lot. The game design process is a lot like that. The work, I'm a web developer, and get a lot of kind of usability feedback. It's a lot the same. People can tell if something's not working, even if they don't know why, and they may suggest fixes or ideas about how to fix it that may not really fix it. So it's a common thing in game design. If someone tells you how to fix your game when they're playtesting, you try to peel that back and say, okay, what is the problem that they're trying to solve? What is it that makes the game not fun? Or what is it that this solution is meant to solve? And then maybe as a game designer, find a different. The same is true with Kickstarter. People suggest, oh, you need to have exclusives, and it's like, okay, well, what is the problem that exclusives are trying to solve? Oh, it's to get people to not wait until retail. And so maybe there's another way as a Kickstarter creator that you can, solve that problem. Making the campaign look appealing, making people not want to wait till retail, without doing exclusives. So there is a lot of that. I think there's so much Kickstarter advice that you can't follow all of it, and so you have to filter through it and just to kind of take it all in and then see like, oh, like we'll never do Kickstarter exclusives as a company. That's just not in our nature, and I don't feel like it's the spirit of Kickstarter to create this sort of arbitrary or artificial scarcity that that makes people who wouldn't back your game otherwise do it because they're afraid that they're going to miss out. And it really hurts a company later down the road. There's some people who won't buy the game because they can't get that card. So we always try to think about what's fair, what's best for our company. And if somebody finds us in a year, like, we want them not to feel like they've been left out. Maybe they can't get the same price, or maybe they can't get the promo card included for free, or maybe we ran out of these. There are things that they can be limited, but we want to be as inclusive as we can as a company. We want as many people playing our games as possible. And so when someone says, "Oh, you need to make this an exclusive," or "I'm not going to back your project," then it's like, well, then just wait for retail. If you don't want to participate in this experience of making the game happen, that's fine with us. This is what we're about instead. So yeah, there's a lot of that advice. You just have to filter through it.
You brought up something else, and this is one of my big sticking points right now with the industry, is this whole cult of the new thing, where you got to stay on, you got to be putting out a game every quarter, and there's so many games, and people, we can't even play a game 6 times before, it's already old and new, or old and there's 6 more games on the table, and so as a publisher, have you started to notice or think about how you're going to market games that are no longer current within that 6-month window, or with Relic Expeditions, 2 or 3 years down the road, you might have 2 or 3 more games out or whatever. Have you thought about how you're going to keep marketing those so that the people who do come and discover Foxtrot games later will have a chance to see those and maybe want to purchase that versus another Kickstarter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is definitely a concern as a small publisher in this industry. If I print a bunch of games and I have them left over, I got to figure out how to move them. And so, we're talking about, with our Kickstarter campaign right now, we've put Relic Expedition on sale to help bring the awareness of that back up, of course. Right. And then if we do a really good job of marketing Relic Expedition, we'll run out of copies. And so the lead times between reprints and the kind of the capital required to do a reprint is really high. And I haven't figured that out yet, and we luckily haven't run out of, we haven't sold out of Relic Expedition yet. So that's something we'll have to cross a bridge when we get there. But yeah, I think building up, with the new game coming out, there's a chance to market your back catalog. You don't really sell a lot through distribution or through stores of your back catalog that way, but I suspect, just seeing how much we've sold of Relic Expedition during this campaign, there is a sense when someone finds you, they will come to you and buy. from your back catalog. And I do get better margins when people buy from me direct than when they buy from stores. So that is true. I definitely want to get the game out in stores. I think that's a great way for people to discover it. But if it's older than 6 months, then yeah, I mean, having a marketing plan to sell the copies direct is great. I mean, Relic Expedition is going to be nice. We're going to start looking at marketing to like an Indiana Jones fan site and trying to. It's a casual enough game that I think we might have some success there. It is fairly expensive. I mean, it's not $12 like you would find Monopoly at Target. So I'm not quite sure what the response will be there. But yeah, that's one of the things we're going to try once we get through Board Game GeekCon. So it'll be there at Board Game GeekCon. We'll be running demos, and then I assume we'll have some left over still. But
right.
And we'll start trying to market it after that more aggressively to non-gamers.
So being a small indie publisher, what is your thought about getting into a major retail store? And is that something you're really trying to do? Is that something you want to happen, or do you feel like, that's not really our thing?
I would love for that to happen. I mean, I would love to go into Barnes & Noble and see Relic Expedition there, That's not something we've been aggressively trying to do at all. I mean, I don't have enough. If Barnes & Noble said they wanted to carry us, I don't have enough copies right now. So I think for me, getting into Barnes & Noble is going to be something we're going to have to grow a bit before we could even imagine pulling that off. And we're gonna have to work with a consolidator, somebody like PSI. I know I think PSI is the consolidator that can get you into Barnes & Noble. So when we're at a point where we can afford to print enough copies of a game, that's when we'll start talking to Barnes & Noble. At this point, that feels a lot like hitting the jackpot or winning the lottery. It's not.
All you need to do is get on Oprah.
Yeah. Exactly. or on tabletop, right? I mean, there is that tabletop phenomenon. So they announced the games for Season 3, and there are some tiny publishers on there. Crash Games and Council of Verona will be on there. So that's sort of, I guess, my aspiration as a tiny publisher. Patrick Nickel from Crash Games, they've got, I think, 10 projects that they've funded. Maybe their current one is their 10th. So, if we can get a catalog that deep, and we can get one of our games to be on a future season of tabletop, that seems to me the way that we could make that happen in a sort of realistic way.
Right.
Again, I don't need to sell 100,000 copies for Foxtrot games to be successful and personally satisfying for me right now. So I'm not calling Barnes & Noble every week and asking if they've got my letters or anything quite yet. But yeah, I mean, I dream of the day that you can pick up Lanterns, the Harvest Festival, and Barnes & Noble. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I've just talked to so many different people, and they have different. They may not want to deal with the headache of a Barnes & Noble, or assuming there is one, or something. I know lots of designers who don't care. It's like, if I sell it on my first print run, I'm done. I'm happy. I don't, and they don't really push or try to market. So it's always interesting just to get people's takes on where they see themselves going or where they would like to go. And for us as gamers, it's so exciting to see those games in the stores now, which 2 years ago they weren't.
Exactly.
And, to be able to pull out a game and play it in public and not have a bunch of people think you're some kind of weirdo freak, So, it's pretty exciting. So if I was doing it, I would think the same. I'd be like, man, I want that in Barnes & Noble, and I'd be pounding and to get as many, as I could, just because that would be so cool to me. But now the last thing I want to talk to you about real quick is your experience working with board game media. Mm-hmm. How has it been for you, and do you really see a valuable return in it, or is it kind of like, it's hit and miss, and, what has been your take on working with that so far?
Well, that's a great question. I know you being in board game media, that's probably near and dear to your heart. With Lanterns, the best thing that we did with Lanterns was send out review copies in advance. So I've been participating in Board Game Hour, marketing Relic Expedition on Twitter, and sort of growing. I don't want to say my following. That sounds so marketing, right? But just getting to be friends with people. Networking is so hard for me because I just don't like being solicited, so I don't want to put other people through that. But Board Game Hour has been great because I can share what I know, I can ask people what they know, and I can get real Twitter friends who were both interested in each other succeeding. I came up with the goal of networking, I put it recently, is to increase the number of people in the world who want you to succeed. And that I can get behind that. And Twitter has been really helpful for that. So I've met our viewers, people with podcasts and video shows and blogs who were really interested in lanterns when we were talking it up on Twitter, and so they wanted copies, and we reached out to some reviewers. We didn't do any paid previews. That just feels weird to me. I mean, I can make a preview video, or I can hire a film crew to make a video of me previewing the game. I wanted people who had not received any money from me to talk about how much they liked the game. That was much more important to me as a Kickstarter project creator, because so many Kickstarter games look good and then people get them and then they're disappointed with the gameplay for whatever reason. There was no gameplay video, there were no reviews. Even if it's a good game, it's not what they wanted. There's just a lot of... You're asking people to pre-order a long time in advance for a company that they often don't know. They have no reason to trust yet. So having those reviews was really important. I still remember when I ran my Relic Expedition campaign, and we didn't have any reviews to start. And I was like, how am I supposed to get reviews? The game's not out. It's just it was a bit of a learning process. I would see other campaigns. How do they already have 5 reviews? Well, I sent out over a dozen review copies this time, got a bunch of reviews from people. And that was just, I think, so essential to having a good, strong opening. On Kickstarter, you can hit Remind Me, or you can hit Back. And a big focus of mine on this campaign was getting potential backers, to say yes on that first day or the first week instead of maybe with that Remind Me button. So that's been really, really good and helpful. As far as Relic Expedition, I mean, the best thing I did with Relic Expedition was pay for a tutorial from Watch It Played. So you can hire them to make an instructional video, and I did that so that my backers, when they got the game, could see how to play the game. And Rodney and his son enjoyed the game enough; they did a playthrough of it. You can't hire them for that. That's part of their show.
Right.
The game, they'll play through it, and they did that. And we got a lot of. I mean, that was right when the game was coming out, so we got a lot of people buying the game through there. And a lot of the buzz we had when we did release was from people watching it on Watch It Played. And I love their show because he doesn't tell you if they like the game or not. He just shows you them playing it, so you can decide. It's a lot of subjectivity. And people, whenever a new review comes out, if it's positive, I get some sales. Even when some lukewarm reviews of Relic Expedition come out, people find out about it. So that's all been good. But yeah, Rodney was definitely was one I could measure and see noticeable impact from that happening. So that was great. And then the reviews on Lanterns have been really, really good for us.
Awesome. But it's just, from my perspective, even though I do board game media, I've been doing media for so long in other industries or whatever, and I always watch and I love to see the conversations going on in groups about, well, this is worth it, this is not worth it, and I have to keep my mouth shut because most of the time I want to jump down their throats. But it's just interesting to see what they think is worth it. When I think about if you had hired somebody who could deliver a certain amount of whatever, and what it really costs in traditional media to get that done versus the cost of a board game and mailing it out, and those kinds of things, and it always just kind of makes me laugh because it's like even if that only got 1,000 people to see it, for the cost of it, that was nothing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, mailing out review copies is definitely a priority. So we mailed out quite a few with Relic Expedition and plan to do even more. I mean, the shipping on Lanterns is going to cost me less.
Right.
It's a smaller game, so even more obviously worth it. Yeah, just to, you just send out maybe 50 copies and hope that, people will take the time to read. I mean, it's. I know there have been some discussions around if people getting a free copy of the game makes reviewers biased, but they have to have the game to play it, and there's no sense in them mailing it back after they get it. I don't feel like it's definitely not worth all the trouble of writing a review just for a free copy of the game.
Yeah, I don't buy into reviewer bias at that. If somebody paid me $1,500 to review a game, there might be some bias.
Yeah, yeah.
But if somebody sends me a game like this or a $50 game, I'm not selling my soul for a $50 game. It doesn't work like that. Most of us, at least the ones I know, are going to review the game fairly. Either we like it or we don't like it, and that's just the cost of doing business. If you want somebody to review your product, you have to get it to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And if it takes me 40 hours to review a game, and then I've got to take the time and pay to have it shipped back, there's absolutely no interest in it for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So, that doesn't work out. So I don't buy that whole reviewer bias thing. I think that no matter who you are, if you're a reviewer, you're already biased in the sense that you already have your favorite publishers. You already have your favorite styles of games. There's always some minor and extremely minor bias in there. You can't ever get away from it. But yeah, at that price, no. It's not realistic to review your game favorably for the price of a board game.
Yeah, I mean, and some reviewers are more positive than others. Some reviewers, you always wonder, you're like, do you even like board games at all? You give negative reviews for every game.
Right.
And then there are some that clearly just love games, and they review games positively. But even those, they explain how it works and explain what they like about it. And
right.
I mean, as a person reading board game media, consuming board game media, you just need to know which person's opinions line up with yours, or play styles line up with yours, or just know if this person likes every game and they like that one, that's not going to help you make a decision. You just have to figure that out. So.
Right. It's just, I know a guy that he buys every game he can possibly get his hands on, and he can't play half of what he buys.
Yeah.
They're like that. They just love games. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just the way it is, and more power to them. I wish I had that kind of budget, to tell you the truth.
That's one of the things that scares me about being a board game publisher. I just really like games, and if someone sends me a game, it's like, oh, I like this. Well, I like every game.
Right.
That's been one of the things that's been interesting to me. It's like, oh, I really like this game. I would play this a lot. Oh, but I don't want to spend my time publishing it. It's not that good. I need to really put that publisher hat on. Like, oh, I'd buy this and play it 10 times. But as a publisher, you're playing the same game hundreds of times. So you got to really like it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot here real quick and close out this interview. As a small-time publisher and doing your second release, give me the top 3 tips that you can give somebody who's looking to start a Kickstarter campaign.
Besides don't?
Exactly.
Do your homework. That's number 1. There's all kinds of blogs out there. People are really good with sharing information. So if you don't know, Jamie Stagmeyer and James Matthew are the 2 board game publisher blogs that you want to follow. James has a Facebook group, the Tabletop. He has a few of them. Garden Board Game Designers, Kickstarter Advice, Tabletop Board Games. So follow that. There's so much information out there, and if you don't spend the time to figure it out, you'll figure it out when you're in the middle of the campaign, or you'll figure it out when you're in the middle of fulfillment and you'll wish you'd done it before. So that's number 1. Number 2 is network. Network. Get on Twitter, meet board game people there, go back Kickstarter campaigns, see what the other publishers, who they are, what they're doing, follow them on Twitter. Go to board game conventions, go to your local game store. You don't have to go to the big conventions, go to small conventions. You'll meet people. The people that you meet, you'll be able to build deeper relationships with, necessarily, than the ones that you'll meet so many people at the big convention. Right. So do your homework, get to know people, and play lots of games, I would say. It seems like when you start, you're like, oh yeah, I love playing games. I know what it takes to make a good board game. But you really just have to play lots and lots and lots of games. That's the first. That's probably even more important than the other 2. Again, go to your local game store, go to conventions, go play games that you won't like. Or if you can't stand it, watch other people play these games and see what they like about them. It's so hard to make a game that's fun as a designer, as a publisher to find a game that a lot of people will think is fun. So watch lots of people play games, play lots of games, and you have to think about games differently when you're a publisher. You have to kind of analyze them more, and you're thinking kind of meta all the time. But yeah, play lots of games, watch people play, figure out what makes them fun, what makes people want to play this thing 100 times. What's going to make you want to play it 100 times?
Right.
So those are my 3 tips.
All right. There you go, folks. You heard it straight from Randy Hoyt, Foxtrot Games. There's your ticket to success right there. So, all right. So, again, Kickstarter, Lanterns, the Harvest Festival, 6 days left. Pretty much 5 now. I guess it's getting kind of late, so jump on that.
It's 6.5. Kickstarter's, when there's 6 days and 23 hours, they switch it to 6. So we still got 6.5, a full 6.5.
So jump on that and definitely check it out. I'm highly recommending it. It's a great game. It's attractive. It's simple and quick. This is great for work, lunch hours, or warming up the game table before everybody arrives, or any of those situations. You can find Randy on Twitter. He's got at Lanterns Game, at Foxtrot Games, and I can't remember if is it Randy _Hoyt or just
Randy Hoyt, all in one word. That'll give you the behind the scenes of what it's like to be a board game publisher in that personal account. The other ones are more for announcements, but yeah, follow me at Randy Hoyt, all in word.
Okay, and obviously check them out on Facebook. Do you have a G Plus account? Are you using Google Plus? Do you have
not really. We do have a page now that you mention it. Foxtrot Games page. I don't even know what's up there. I should probably get on that more.
Yes. All right. Well, there it is, folks. Again, take a look at it. Randy, thank you so much for joining us tonight, taking part and sharing your wonderful game with us. Folks, thank you for watching Club Fantasi. Thank you for supporting us and sharing our content on Twitter and Facebook and all those places. Just www.clubfantasi.com for those of you who are unfamiliar with us. And if there's anything you want, anything we can help you with, just shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Game on.